born to be making history, something greater, something higher. Ain't nothing gonna stop this fire. It's plain reality. I was born to be something greater, something higher. Ain't nothing gonna stop this fire. I was born to be making history, something greater, something higher. Ain't nothing gonna stop this fire.
Watertown Fire Rescue Training and Education presents the Motorola APX 6000XE Bluetooth setup and functionality. Here's a picture of the Motorola APX 6000XE with a radio, and if you haven't done so, please have a radio nearby and use it during the video as each piece is explained to receive the most benefit from this training. This brings us to the top view of the radio. On the far, starting in the left-hand corner, that first arrow is pointing to the VHF GPS-enabled antenna. The second arrow is the lock emergency button. If you hold this down simultaneously with the push to talk, you'll enable emergency tones while it's held down for emergency traffic only. If you hold down only the emergency button, it will lock the menu buttons on the keypad in the front of the radio. Arrow 3 is pointing at the slide switch at the base of the channel selector dial. This has no function. Arrow 4 is the channel selector dial. This allows you to change between channels. Our most common channels will be Zone 1, Channel 1, Watertown Fire, our analog channel. Zone 1, Channel 2, which is our fire talk around. This turns our radios into limited range walkie-talkies and doesn't use the repeater. And our third one will be Zone 1, Channel 9, Watertown INT, our digital channel. Arrow 5 is the on-off volume dial. Turn in a clockwise motion to turn on the radio, and continue turning it for increased volume. Inversely, if you turn it counterclockwise, it will lower the volume and then shut off the radio. Arrow 6 is the ABC slide switch, which has no function, and also shown as the lit display. This will show what pack it is linked to when it's turned on, and then it will blink between the zone you're currently in and the channel that it's on. The battery will be in the upper right hand corner along with the Bluetooth symbol if it is paired. This brings us to the side view. The top arrow is pointing to the purple button on the side of the radio, which enables the scan function. Hit it again to shut off the scan function. The second arrow is pointing to the push to talk. This is the button that will create the emergency traffic tones if pushed simultaneously with the emergency button from the top. The third arrow is pointing to the signal strength indicator, and the fourth arrow is pointing to the button that will change zones. Zone change can also be completed from the menu and the front view display, which brings us to the front view display. The top arrow in the front view display is pointing to the Bluetooth enabled icon along with the battery that both can be accessed in the menu as well. The second arrow is pointing to the display, which will read the zone, the channel name, and the title of the radio, which should describe its position on the apparatus. The third arrow is pointing to the menu items that correspond with the buttons below. If you hit the right menu navigation button, you'll have a total of 5 menu options. Right here you can see zone, recent conversations, and clock. But if you'd hit that right menu navigation button, you'd also see battery and Bluetooth menus. The fourth arrow is pointing to the 3 buttons that are identified with 1, 2, and 3 circles. They will correspond directly with the menu items above them. The fifth arrow is pointing to the home or back button. This will bring you back or to home. And the sixth arrow is pointing to the small computer button. This has no function. The seventh arrow is pointing to the left, right, up, down menu navigation buttons. Use this when working within the menu items or to scan over to see your additional 2 menu items. Next is our mic view. The top arrow is pointing to the emergency button / screen lock. Just like the other orange button, if you hold it by itself, it will lock the menu buttons. If you hold it simultaneously with push to talk, you'll receive tones for emergency traffic. Second arrow is the light of the flashlight itself. Third arrow is the microphone toggle switch. Toggle up repeatedly to increase volume and down repeatedly to decrease volume. The fourth arrow is pointing to the flashlight on/off button. Hold it in to turn on the light. Hold it in to turn off the light. Fifth arrow is pointing to the push to talk. Use this to communicate, or when held simultaneously with the emergency button, it creates those tones for emergency traffic. And the sixth arrow will light up the display on the top and the front of the radio. Lastly, we have a video. We're going to start with the items we need in order to pair the radio to our packs. So the very first thing we're going to need is our RFID tags shown here. We'll need a radio, we'll need our pack, and then a mask if you want to check its connectivity. Right now I'm going to show you where the RFID sensor is. It's right there on the back of the pack. So the very first thing I'm going to do is turn on the radio using that volume up and on off dial. So there, the radio is on. You can see it's the engine 3 pump. I'm in zone 1 on channel 1, Watertown Fire analog channel. I turn on the pack and then I go straight to the pass alarm. Once it's done doing its startup boot, there's 2 green buttons on the side. Either one is fine. You just depress one of them and you'll see a blue menu scroll across the bottom. Once that scrolls all the way across, it's going to bring up your RFID. That's going to let you know you can scan your RFID tag. At that point, I pick engine 3 pump for engine 3's radio and I scan that across the sensor. It beeps on the radio. It's going to take me a second to get the camera figured out here, and I'm going to scan over using that right menu navigation button to get to the Bluetooth menu. I'm going to go down to devices and you'll see 0 connected, 1 paired. Now remember, to connect you actually have to be on air. That's when they physically connect, or Bluetooth connect. So real quick, and it's a good practice to do this every morning, is I'm going to go on air, and as soon as I do, it automatically connects and I can throw a test out there.
Something greater, something higher. Ain't gonna stop this fire.